Hello, I was muted because of course I was. Anyways, welcome everybody. Hope everyone's having a good Monday. So today I'm going to be continuing this this painting. Yeah, very straightforward. So I feel like this is actually like yesterday's stream and today's stream are probably like the best stages for a painting for a stream because there's the most dramatic changes. You know, yesterday obviously it went from a blank canvas to this, and then today I'm going to go in and start modeling everything into place a bit. You know, so that's the most like exciting bits, I guess. And then later it slows down to a crawl, and it's very much a, you know, the refinement stage. If I what's it called? If I had the time, like if I had the time to only paint, that's all I did in my free time, then I would do more, like start more paintings on stream and then finish them off the stream. Not all of them, but more of them, because I think that would make for a more interesting, stream in general. But I know some people appreciate watching it, the start to finish aspect of it. Um, but either way. Also, if all I did was paint, I would stream a lot more than I currently do. But alas, I cannot afford to do that at the moment. Uh, Kafer, finally made it to a stream. Can't wait to see how you progress. Oh, thank you very much. And also, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. Is it Kafer or? Yeah, I don't know how else I would pronounce it. But anyways, let me know. I'm Liad, and so people get my name wrong all the time. So I'm very, very, very familiar with that. So I apologize. And I'm glad you made it to a stream. You got it right? Awesome. Thank you. Or I'm glad. I don't know why I said thank you. I'm glad. But yeah. And I'm glad you made it to a stream. So, my weekday streams are usually, not always, of course, but usually after work. So, that's why they're late, and that's unfortunately why I often don't make it nearly as much progress as I would like to. But I'll definitely do my best because I'm impatient and I want to get through as many paintings as I can. So I bought this oil paint from Jerry's Artorama. It's called Great White, and there's a little shark fin in the W. Honestly, I don't know if it's good, paint. It's cheap, but it's not like the cheapest thing in the world. So I don't know if it's good or not. But they claim it's good quality for what it's worth, and you know, like I said, cheap might not be the word. Affordable might be the better phrase, or priced well or something like that. Uh, yeah. I forgot to quiet my phone. There you go. So I have my phone out here because I record hyperlapses of my painting, because I plan to do something, release it on social media. I don't do it, but I plan on it. So eventually one day I'll get around to it. So this painting is, in case it's hard to see, because I can, if you're not familiar with the subject, you might have a hard time understanding what's going on, but it's four people, three adults and a child here. And this is, the water. They're on a rock. There's some background and a boat, you know. So as I normally do, I'm going to start with the background because I usually start with the background to warm up. Just a good way of kind of getting in there, feeling how the paint moves, kind of getting back into the feel of everything. At least for me it is. And I can also talk about the painting a bit. So the reference for this painting is a found, wait, is it found? Yeah, found photograph. So I'm planning on doing a series of paintings from found photography. And in case you're not familiar with that term, because I know I wasn't, found photography is photos that are, as the name implies, found. Usually like old photos. A lot of them are very old, and it's stuff that's found in like a like a storage locker, or in an old house, or a house that got sold by like multiple parties, so it's not like the last people that lived there. So it's just it's photography that doesn't seem to belong to anybody anymore, like photos that don't seem to belong to anybody anymore. Now obviously they do in a way, but in a way they don't. It's a little like it's a little complicated, but I don't know. You can see some people, and I was surprised that this even exists. But like you can go to what are they called? Like not craft, I guess craft fairs, but like swap meets and stuff like that, or and people have just like boxes of like old photos that don't seem to of just random people kind of thing, and you can just buy them for like a couple of cents, stuff like that. So yeah, so I went on eBay, and you can buy them off of eBay. So I bought a box of photos to try out to see how and it's like it's just random photos. So some of them are good, some of them aren't. And by good, I'm only referring to good in regards to painting reference for what I am looking for to paint, which is a very specific measurement. But yeah, that's what I'm working on at the moment. I did one. Actually, I can show this. I did this a while ago. I do have to finish like two, like a few details in the faces. I still haven't. But I did this painting on stream a while ago. And this was from Found Photography as well. Like I said, I need to do some finishing touches on it, but it's close to done. And that painting was a trial. Looks really great. Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, so most of these are black and white or like sepia. They're like they're very old. Some of them are like very very old, but most of them are from like the somewhere between like the 50s to 80s roughly. The majority, not all. I mean, there's some from like I think the 20s, and I think you can find some from even before that. But most of the ones that like you buy, and also there's another aspect of it, which is how do you go around choosing colors for black and white photos? So I usually use Photoshop to first of all I use Photoshop in general, but although for the record I'm not endorsing Photoshop, I'm kind of not a fan of Adobe and all the crap that they're doing with AI right now. I just need it for work and have a subscription, and so I use it. There are alternatives out there, and if you don't need a lot of the tools that Adobe specifically has, you can get around using Photoshop, no problem. Just going to throw that out there real quick. But Adobe Photoshop does have a feature called colorize photos. So it just automatically colorizes your black and white photos. Now, it's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but I use that as a jumping off point. And the thing is, depending on how you crop the photo, you'll get different colors each time. So you crop the photo, you manipulate the photo. I also, depending on how you adjust the photo with like the brightness and the contrast and everything. So that's my starting off point. And then from there, I do a bunch of edits to everything. I add light leaks, and I do color adjustments both in the highlights and in the shadows, and just all kinds of stuff like that. Sometimes some manual ones too, as in like I go in and like manually select colors and paint over areas, especially when it gets it like severely wrong. Yeah, but all of that is generally like a jumping off point. I'm not going to follow it like 100%, but yeah, that's how I go about it. The what's it called? The composition, the quality of the photo, and the contrast to a degree. The subject matter, all that stuff matters way more than the color, in my opinion. Because part of the reason is because even with my even when I'm working from photos that have color, I will deviate from the color quite significantly. So I'm not, and I don't feel overly tied to the color. I mean, it's not. I don't usually change colors entirely because that you start getting into issues of like bounced light, and it starts making things look weird. But yeah, so I don't do like complete color changes generally, in especially in like a photography that has color already. Uh, yeah, like you can edit that in Photoshop and change the colors of things, but you got to be real careful with it because it usually looks wrong. Um, Not always, depends what you're doing and depends how good you are at editing, but a lot of times it just looks wrong because there's so much that goes into like the so much light gets bounced around and affects everything. Yeah, it's not it's not simple. I'll put it that way. But yeah, and in case anyone's interested, there are these tools and what's it called? There's actions and there are layers that you can find for free or buy that do like light leaks, like light leak effects. That's when you have like um light like this haze kind of come into a photo. Sometimes sometimes it's like strips of light or spotlights here and there, just stuff like that. You can find that stuff online. Some of it's free, some of it's paid. For the record, you can make all of those effects because they're working within Photoshop. They're not, you know, they're not making anything out of nothing. So you can technically make all those your own by yourself if you want, if you understand how they make them in Photoshop. But you can also find some for free to get you like jumping off point. Some some what's it called? Not Photoshop filters. Like Instagram filters and TikTok filters and stuff like that. I don't think they're as popular anymore, but they were when Instagram first came out. Did a lot of those things. Like you got these photos that had like that, you know, that kind of like reddish haze over it or something like that. Yeah. So yeah, it's that type of thing. Old photography is so interesting. If you're not familiar with it, uh, I think it's called glass plate photography. Oh, it's so interesting. The effects that they would get from it. Originally, it was unintended, but then people, in at least my understanding is it was unintentional. I'm not an expert at this. I just my understanding is that's how they produced prints, and then as the technology got better, they kind of left that, but uh, artists were photographers were like, no, this is great, and then kept using it and made like really cool photography from it. I think it's called silver plate um, photography or development. I think that sounds familiar. I'm horrible with names, so like I always forget stuff, unfortunately. So one thing I personally am torn with this type of painting is that this is a what I would refer to as a figurative painting. I'm not good with terms, so maybe I'm wrong, but I would consider this a figurative painting because we have figures. But it's not going to be portraiture because I'm not really going to paint in the faces all that much, especially because they're super small and everything, and the quality of the photo is really bad. Um, but that's the thing I'm torn on because I love doing portraits and I love doing figurative stuff. And like, I like this because it's a whole scene, but and I feel like I'm missing out on that, you know, that portrait aspect of it. I don't know if that makes sense. It does. Yeah. It's, you know, I don't know. It's funny. I think, uh, I know I'm not the only one who likes to do like, classical paintings, but also it likes, superhero stuff and comics and things like that. And it's always this thing of like, oh, I would love to do some, pop culture things. Uh, but then at the same time, I want to do not pop culture things in my own stuff. And it's always this funny, like, um, balancing act. Are you working on anything, Kafir? Anything you feel like talking about, painting or art wise? No pressure to participate since this is, just online, open to anybody. People don't have to, shouldn't feel obligated to participate in any way. Just curious. You doing some sketches related to the Wild West? Nice. Wild West is, I will say personally, I do not like drawing anything from the Wild West because uh, it's a lot of horses, and I don't like drawing horses. Yeah. Although the cowboy outfits are fun for sure. same, but I decided to challenge myself a bit. That's good. It's always good to challenge yourself. I've uh, I've had to draw horses on jobs before. You know, uh, a lot of times in the early stages, I'll put it that way, they end up looking like large dogs. Just early stages, you know. Thing I thought was super interesting about horses is if you take the anatomy of horses and you equate it to human anatomy, and this applies to dogs as well, although horses are worse. Um, it is like analogous. There are parts, um, you know, that correlate with the human parts. They're just you know, in a different different position, and often the big thing is different proportions. And it's really weird. And what I'm referring to is, you might know this, but in case someone's watching later and doesn't know what I'm referring to, is like, cats. If you look at their legs, their like knees are up where their body, like close to their body, and then it's their like what would be their shin goes down to the heel, and then the heel, from the heel down, that's like a large part of their leg, and then they're standing on their like tiptoes essentially. Yeah, you had a massive issue with the legs. I'm so used to cats and dogs. It was really tough to draw like uh undulating type of animals. Yeah. Yeah. They're weird. There's some great reference online, by the way, for how horses move, for animation, for old school animation. Um, yeah, I don't know, like that might be helpful. If not for you, someone else. But yeah, that's it's like old Disney cartoons and stuff like that. So they have all these. There's all this, great reference online for that. Same thing for dogs and cats too, I think, but definitely for horses. And also, I'm going to curse everybody watching this, um, and tell you, because if I have to suffer, you have to suffer. Although you don't, if you can resist. Uh, don't look up horse baby horses, like baby horse hooves, and what their hooves look like when they're born, and what horses look like when they're born. If you can resist looking that up, you will be doing yourself a favor. I, I didn't have a choice. I was watching something unrelated, and that was inflicted on me. Yeah. Now I'm curious, but I'm also scared to see. Yep. I can tell you this. So, because the Hoove can has the potential to hurt the mom, they are not fully formed, um, and they don't look like hooves look because they don't want it I guess they develop so that it won't hurt the mama. I don't know if that helps um, quench your curiosity or not. Uh, that's what I get for not paying attention while painting. All right, gotta lighten that up. It did a bit. I will stay strong for now. All right, good. All right. I'm gonna lighten that up a bit because I wasn't really paying attention. It is so easy to just go into like autopilot sometimes. So the thing is, because because this photo is black and white, even though Photoshop colored it in, like helped colorize it, there's still a bunch of inaccuracies, of course. And there's no way I can 100%, you know, make it accurate to life. But there are some educated guesses I can make on some things, because I know that I know when you're outside in the sun, the bounced light in the shadows comes from the sky, so it's blue, and then they're on a yellow or brownish, or I mean it could be a gray rock, but there's water around them. So I know that a lot of the shadows need to be on the cooler side, and Photoshop doesn't know that, so it just kind of made everything kind of warm. And once again, like I said, I'm never going to be 100% true to life. I'm not even going to attempt it because there's no way. it would actually be even easier to do this as a like um, monochrome of some kind. That would of course be the easiest route to go, which is probably why I'm not doing that. I mean, like I said, the colors aren't going to be true to life, but I always seem to pick the um, I always seem to not pick the easiest way of dealing with things. Take that for what it's worth. I always seem to make my life harder. I've done monochromes before. I really like doing monochromes too. Um, although, hmm, I take that back. I even my monochromes weren't monochrome. I call them limited hue paintings because there's a huge I use like between 5 to 7 colors in my monochrome paintings, so that's why I call them limited hue. Like I imagined on the color wheel selecting a sliver, and a very very narrow sliver, and painting in that narrow sliver. But it was a lot of fun, and what I liked about those is, unlike a monochrome, which obviously only has one color and value, these had temperature changes as well, which was uh, a lot of fun. That the temperature changes allowed for a lot of subtlety and a lot of really fun painting stuff that I enjoyed a lot. The a lot of artists will correctly state that like value is king, or is the most important thing in some ways, and there's definitely truth to that. But it's very fun to you know either focus on other aspects of painting, or eliminate value completely out of the equation, which I've done as well. Um, yeah, it's challenging and it's fun, and yeah, I don't know. I enjoyed those exercises a lot. I did this wasn't my idea. I took the idea from Nicholas Uribe, and he claims to have taken it from someone else. So I have no idea who came up with this idea originally, but uh, I did some paintings that were like a single value, or I tried to make it so that the whole painting would be like, if you put it under a black and white filter, it would just look like a single square of gray, or yeah, the different. Each one was like a different brightness. I of course didn't 100% succeed at that, but it was still close. It was a lot of fun. I learned a lot from it. Those paintings are great. They just they're so much better in person than they are online. Unfortunately, they just do like. Not saying that you can't enjoy them online, because you definitely can, but oh my god, the difference between seeing them online and seeing them in person is huge. But I can show them on stream if anyone wants. They're on my website too and stuff. So, or my Instagram as well. It's not they're not exclusive or anything, but yeah, if someone doesn't know what I'm talking about, I'm happy to show them on stream when I take a break. I often, or often might not be the right word, but I do wonder if I'd done the what's it called the Zorn palette painting uh, prior to doing all those other kind of painting challenges that I've done. I wonder if the Zorn palette would have you know hit differently, so to speak, um, than it did, when I tried it. Because it was fun to do the Zorn palette, and I'm really happy with the painting I got out of it. But it wasn't like super impactful, I think, for me personally. But yeah, I suspect that part of the reason is because I've done all these other painting challenges already. Challenges might not be the right word. Exercises. Yeah, I've done all these painting exercises, and um, you know, I think I learned a lot from them, and very similar things than to the to what I would have learned from the Zorn palette had I not already, learned those things in a different way. However, I do think the Zorn palette might be more approachable, for beginners. And for anyone who's not familiar with the Zorn palette, you can look it up, but the Zorn palette is a limited color palette that uses a black and white, and then it uses yellow ochre and um, cad red light, although it's supposed to be a different red. I can't remember the name of it right now, but it's a very expensive red, so everyone uses cad red light instead. Um, yeah. So your blue is supposed to be just from your grays from the black. It's not perfect, obviously, and it's not saturated. And that's the limiting factors. Same with yellow ochre. Yellow ochre is not a saturated yellow, so you're very, very, very limited. But it works. It works well, especially with portraits and stuff like that, because you know, warm, warm, warm colors with like neutral colors work really well for people, generally speaking. I know I've said this many times on my stream before, but it could every stream could be someone's first stream. So my palette is a limited palette as well, but it has a much wider range than the Zorn palette because it has very bright, strong colors. So my palette is black and white, and the black I'm using is Mars Black, which is a very opaque black. I really like it. I also will not use Ivory Black, just FYI. So that's why I mention it, because like there's other blacks than Ivory Black, and they're really good. So just throwing that out there. But yeah, other than that, there is I'm using a Phthalo Blue and a Quinacridone Rose, or a Quinacridone Red, or a Permanent Rose, or a Permanent Red. It's PV19. Pigments are a mess, so the same pigment can make multiple colors, and it depends on the brand you're buying from. It's a little bit of a mess, but generally it's Quinacridone Rose, which I found to be better than magenta, because it is more capable than magenta. Yeah. And then my yellow, I'm trying out bismuth yellow, which I'm enjoying. But before that, it was Cad Lemon. They feel very similar, honestly. There's not a huge difference between them. And the reason for this palette is because it is a limited palette, but it's very broad, and you can make a lot of colors with it. Having said that, there's also disadvantages to it. A lot more mixing. Oh my god, I spend so much more time mixing than I probably need to, because I don't have a single like convenience color. And if you've ever used Phthalo Blue, you know it is a ridiculous color. It is so like it's so strong in its tinting strength. It just yeah, it can infect everything. So caution should be used. I have done the more traditional palettes and stuff. Like for a long time, my palette was I think it was, I'm trying to remember, it was ultramarine blue. I never even heard of phthalo at the time. And ultramarine blue, white, no black, because you're not supposed to use black, which is BS, by the way. I did think that's so dumb. And what else was on my palette? Yellow ochre, burnt umber, or was it raw umber, or both? I can't remember now. One of the other, probably burnt umber. Sounds right. Burnt umber, Cad red or Cad red light. I can't remember anymore. The what's it called? The bad one. What is it? Alizarin crimson. For a long time, alizarin crimson was on my palette as well, because my teachers taught, like every teacher I went to, that was a paint that everyone told you to get. And then after they found out that it's very fugitive and will fade over time, it became alizarin crimson permanent, which does not look like alizarin crimson. Not really. but I'll be honest, I don't understand the obsession with the Luzerne Crimson. Like I get it in the past, but today I don't see the point. I don't think it's a very good color for painting. Or rather, I should say it's as good as any color for painting if that's the color you need or like. But in a palette for utility purposes, I don't think it fills a lot of utility. Um, I also used to use cerulean blue. Cerulean blue is, if I remember correctly, kind of expensive and pointless. Because phthalo blue will mixed with white will essentially give you cerulean blue. You know, so seems a little pointless to me. Once again, if you like a color, if it's a convenience color or it just speaks to you, like by all means, I'm talking purely from a like utility stance of like what role it fills in my palette. And to give an example, I did an experiment between quinacridone rose and quinacridone magenta, where I mixed them with all my other colors to see what range of colors I could achieve with them. And I even tried to mix the opposite color with them. So I tried to mix quinacridone. I took quinacridone rose and tried to mix quinacridone magenta. Make it look the same, and vice versa. And quinacridone rose mixed with like a cad red or cad red light and a little blue can look like magenta, but magenta cannot hit the same color as rose. That's why rose is better than magenta in my opinion. But once again, it's also personal preference, so but I think it's worth knowing these things. Um, if for no other reason, they're just fun to know as a paint nerd. But also, it helps inform you on decisions, purchasing decisions. Like I used to I bought, what was it? Um, Cobalt teal. Um, it's a beautiful, beautiful color. Really expensive too. Um, and I don't recommend anyone buy that color unless you need it straight out of the tube. If you don't need it straight out of the tube and you're going to mix it with essentially anything, don't bother. Just buy phthalo blue and like you know cad lemon or something like that, and white, and you can mix it. It won't be perfect. That's why I say if you need it like the exact color out of the tube, you can't recreate it, but you can get close. And um, all those other colors are way more versatile than cobalt teal is in mixing for other things. Cobalt teal is very limited in its ability to to mix and kind of be useful. Anyways, I don't know if any of that made sense. If anyone has any questions after the fact too, because you're welcome to put it in the comments of the video. Ask away. I will say this, I'm open to new palettes. Like, I know some people get very stuck in their ways with their palette. I am absolutely happy to switch my palette to something else. I just haven't found anything that can kind of match the colors that I currently have, as far as their ability to mix, to shift into warm or cool versions of themselves, and also what's it called? Oh my god, my brain. The like saturation that they can get from them. Yeah. So, anyways. Not entirely related, but something that I think is interesting. Some people that get cataract surgery, if you're not familiar with cataract surgery, it's when you have a film that develops on the lens of your eye, so they remove it and replace it with a prosthetic. It's like a plastic or something, and it happens to a lot of people. It's a very common surgery when you get older. But the reason I'm mentioning it is because I saw somewhere that some people, when they get cataract surgery, they can because their lens is removed and it's then a false lens, they can see ultraviolet light a bit, not like well, but a bit. I'm so curious what that's like. Apparently, it's really bad for your retina, and that's why, like, old people, you see the old people with the big visors on, sunglasses. That's why. Or at least that's my understanding. And I could be wrong, but that's my understanding. But it's not good for you. But I'm so curious, you know, what what it's like to see the world with ultraviolet light. There's also the people who have, I think it's 4 cones instead of 3, uh, as far receptors in their eyes, so they can see more colors than we can. it sounds super impressive when you maybe I'll find out in 40 years. I might. That's true. I might find out what it's like to see ultraviolet light in 40 years. I wonder how I'll paint it. Um, you know, that'll be interesting. Um, yeah. Obviously, I kind of hope not, but at the same time, I'm so curious. Yeah. I was saying there's the people who have like the four cones instead of three in their eye, and they can see um, the number that gets thrown out there is like some thousands of colors that we can't. But realistically, what it actually ends up being is um, something akin to was how was it phrased? You know how you can see something that is kind of um, reddish blue, and the reason you can see reddish blue is because um, it's tripping two cones at the same time, so you're seeing kind of two colors at the same time. Is how it was described to me. So the people who have the four cones, they can see greenish. I think it's greenish blue. That's the color that they can see. So they can see like both at the same time. That's what it kind of boils down to, which is way less impressive than the like, you know, thousands of colors that supposedly, you know, they could see. But yeah, it's interesting. I don't know exactly what to do with that information, but it's definitely interesting. There's a painter I follow on online on Instagram. I'm trying to remember his name right now. He does these really, really cool paintings of like cowboys. Um, they're very distorted and very suggestive. Like, not like nudity suggestive. I mean, just like action and stuff like that. Like the characters are often stretched a bit and stuff like that. I'm trying to remember his name. Really cool paintings. I really like his stuff. But of course, cannot remember his name when I need it because I usually can't remember names. I'll try and keep an eye out for it and post about it in the Discord when I come across him again on Instagram. He also does like paintings of cowboys and trains and stuff like that. I think some of it's illustration work for covers, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but that's what I remember. Make sure to tag you if I do. Yeah, absolutely. That's why I thought about it. It was because you're doing the cowboy stuff. That's what made me think about it. By the way, everyone's welcome to join my Discord. I have my own server. It's not very active at the moment, but I do post there when I'm going live, and stuff like this is the type of thing I should start posting there. It is like I said, it's not a very developed Discord, but or active, but unless you're at your 99 Discords, might as well. You definitely won't get spammed with a bunch of crap. And I post there about like when I have friends or artists I know who are streaming, I'll shout them out there. Hi, Winnie. Oh, hi, little girl. We have a cat. Hi. Yeah. Oh, you're so cute. Let's see if I can pick her up and put her on screen. She does not like to be held very much, so it's going to be short-lived, just letting you know. But incoming cat. Little girl. Oh, yeah. No, stay for a little bit. I will give you love. Give you pets. No, don't go, little girl. You want attention? I'll give you attention. Yeah, see? There you go. Oh, she does not like being held. I know. But you're so pretty. Such a pretty girl. Yeah, she's so fluffy. Oh, it's ridiculous. I'm going. I really need to get a camera down here for the cats at some point. But they don't often stay here very long. Yeah, she's so fluffy. But she doesn't like being held. She likes getting love only, like she likes getting pets only on her terms, like very much on her terms. There have been so many times where I'm sitting at my desk working and like suddenly there's a cat in my lap. She just jumps into my lap, Doesn't make any noise beforehand, and she scares the shit out of me. And sometimes she fails the jump and claws my leg trying to hold on. Yeah. All right, little girl. I can't stay down here and keep petting you. No, I can't do that right now. I'm sorry. Yeah, I know. I know. I know. You want more attention. I'm sorry, little girl. I know. I know. Yes, we need a cat camera. I know. I know. No. All right. Here we go. Aw. She's needing my arm. That's so painful. I can use your mom's phone. Yes and no. There's other issues than just the actual camera. I'm sorry, little girl. Yeah, I know. Michelle, you might want to call her. She really wants attention. Go on, little girl. Come on. Go. I hate doing that. Oh, I hate turning them down when they want attention. The thing is, she doesn't want just a little bit of attention. When she wants attention, it's uh she wants to like sit on my lap for like 30 to an hour, you know, which is super adorable. It's just, you know, then I all I can do is just sit there for that time. I can't do anything else. Yeah, usually in my streams, you'll also get to see Dresden, our other cat, and sometimes Misu. But Dresden's the most common. He comes around the most. He might not today, because you never know. He is a cat after all, but he is the most common. In case anyone's counting at home, yeah, that's 3 cats. And we also have a dog. But Wizard doesn't come on stream for multiple reasons. One of which is I can't lift him into camera view. He's an Australian Shepherd. He's too large. All right, let's take stock for a minute. It's starting to come together. Like the shape's starting to look better or, more distinct. I definitely need to get the rocks that they're sitting on to look better. Or, to give them more form. They're kind of uh melty at the moment. I think the problem was I was trying to use a big brush, but the brush that I have is the big brush I'm using is a filbert. And it doesn't give you the sharp, tight edges that, flats do. I think that might be a big part of it. All right. Obviously, they need a lot more work too, but um, right now it feels a little like they have form and this is just like mess underneath them. So I don't like that. So I'm going to fix it. These rocks are very, what's the word I'm looking for? Um, Rough might be the right word. They have a ton of texture on them, which I'm not entirely a fan of. Because I don't want to have to paint in all that texture. In case anyone wasn't clear on why, that's why. So, for anyone who isn't experienced with painting rocks, and I'm not the expert at rocks by any stretch of the imagination. There's a ton of artists out there with way more experience than I have on painting and drawing rocks and texturing rocks and so on. But generally speaking, um, I can talk about it, um, which is to because this is a generalization for a lot of art tips. It applies to hair as well. Um, you want to draw it in or paint it in the big shapes, the masses. You don't want to worry about the little details. Just get the main big shapes that, you know, are that show what the form overall is. And then from there, you break it down more and more. Uh, yeah. So same thing applies to hair. Yeah. And same thing applies to clouds, to trees. It's kind of anytime you have something that's like very, not just a lot of detail, but like, you know, detail that, but it all falls within a general form. That's generally how to approach it. All right, it's starting to look better. All right, I think that's starting to look better. Like it kind of makes sense what they're standing on now. Or sitting on, rather. Or both. But yeah, just the general, like, it kind of makes sense now. Or at least to me it does. I'm kind of torn about the background. Like the far background, as far as like how much detail to, start putting in there. I think I need to put in a little bit because right now I think it's too vague, but like a lot of the stuff over here is very, very vague. Like you can barely see it in the photo. It's just kind of shapes. Hey, Don Lee. This looks like a classic painting scene. Yeah, it's a bit of that. People at the beach. You know, it's a little more modern than like the you know, what's it called? The who would it be? Renaissance? Whatever. Whoever it is. It's a bit more modern. But just a bit, you know. How you doing, Don Lee? But of course, well, yeah, I mean, I'm working off of a photo reference from the 70s, I think it is. So, you know, it's going to be a little more modern. But yeah, no, it's fun. I like it. I haven't done a like, you know, a full scene in a while, so it's nice. Also, hello, yeah, hello, Don Lee. For those who don't know Don Lee is a art streamer on Twitch. He goes by the name Don Leo, Don Lee underscore O with three H's, same as his username. He does digital work. Oh, 70s? Cool. Yeah, I think it's the 70s. Is it from a family photo? I'm assuming it's a found photo, so I don't know who, you know, I don't know who owns it, or I don't even know what part of the world it's from, you know. Um, yeah. Uh, that, but it very much feels like a family photo. Um, and it's the type of thing that feels like a family photo that anybody could have, and that's why I'm painting it, because it very much feels like, you know, like I said, something that anybody could have. You like the colors? Thank you. Yeah, I use the original photos black and white, so it might be older than the 70s. Um, and I use Photoshop to colorize it. Photoshop has an automatic, um, uh, you know, an automatic function that like colorizes, you know, black and white photos. It is not very accurate, um, and there's a lot of you know, weird things that come out of it. But it, for me, it's a jumping off point. You know, I take that and I'm like, okay, now that's where I'm starting, and I go from there. And I do a lot of edits to it and so on. Although I will say this, sometimes that color function that they have in Photoshop can give you some really cool uh, results and effects. I colorized the photo once. It was a black and white photo of a woman blowing smoke, and she was, you know, smoking. She was trying to remember. I think she was standing at a at a fire escape smoking, and Photoshop didn't know exactly what to do with it, so it got some really weird, like, you know, colorations that kind of didn't match anything. which was, cool. It's definitely a fun result. I don't know if I have to look it up. I don't know if what's it called? That Photoshop alternative. I'm trying to remember the name of it right now. Um, well, there's Krita, but there's also Affinity. That's it. Affinity Photo. I don't know if they have that filter to colorize a black and white photo. I know there are other apps out there that can do it, so it's not like Photoshop's the only one who has that ability. Um, I just don't know if though if Affinity does. I'll be honest, I'm a bit cross with Adobe. I don't like a lot of the stuff they're doing lately. So I'm not exactly a fan of theirs, and I'm not exactly promoting the use of their products. You don't think Affinity has any AI filters like that? Okay. This is not a terribly new filter in Photoshop. They've had it for, I don't know, like 5 or 6 years at this point. So it's not like one of the like newest AI you know, AI things. I mean, it definitely qualifies as AI kind of thing. Like it's one of their neural filters, but you know, it's not like generative AI. And I don't know. But yeah, I'm not a huge fan of a lot of this stuff Adobe's been doing lately. Uh Donnelly says, yeah, I think I used that filter under their experimental features back when I still had access to Adobe products. Yeah, that's been they've had it for a long time. It's been, yeah, you're right. It was in their experimental features for a while. I switched over from Adobe Premiere to DaVinci Resolve, so I don't have to have Adobe for that. I'm daily Photoshop user, and I didn't know they can do that. Yeah, Photoshop is, that's the program. It's like there is so much in it. You can easily like not use a ton of parts of it. I the same same thing. Like when I was using Photoshop daily, there were a ton of features I didn't use regularly. Adobe is so deep. I was constantly learning new things about it. Yeah. No, Photoshop really is, it's ridiculous. And I've used it for decades. Same. And there's always something new to learn. Like, okay, this blew my mind. I didn't know this for. I have no idea when they implemented this. This could have been a new implementation. This could have been something that had been around for like 2 decades. I don't know. But I had been using Photoshop for that long or something like it. So the little squiggly, hold on, let me I don't know what the key is called, but it's that little squiggly line key above the tab key, right? I don't know what it's called. But that key, if you're using a brush in Photoshop and you want to erase, it's called tilde. Okay. Or tile. I don't know. Anyways. So if you want to erase with the same brush you're painting with, you hold it down and then keep holding it down and your marks will erase instead of draw. But same brush, like no changes, just instead of putting, paint down, it erases. I didn't know that. And it's like, it is so useful. Never knew that. Oh, you didn't know that one either, Don Lee? It's pretty good. Yeah, it's a great, a great shortcut. And what's really cool about it is if you're using Photoshop to like paint or draw and you switch between brushes for different effects and you want to use this, use the same brush as you're switching between them, it's so useful. I didn't know about it till like recently. I once had to take a test on Photoshop for a job. Well, technically it was for a placement agency. And they asked me some question about like, how do you do, whatever, something basic in Photoshop. And it was a multiple choice question and I answered it. And they said wrong. And they, gave the right answer. So when at the end of the test, there was a little place to write down notes, and I was like, all right, well, on question whatever it was, when you said my answer was wrong, that's incorrect, and here's why. And I went into how you can do the exact thing that they wanted in Photoshop, a different way. Because there's like 10 different ways to do almost anything in Photoshop. Some ways are better than others, but there's like 10 different variants to do it. So it's like, let me explain to you why you are wrong. Yeah. It worked. I got jobs through that placement agency, by the way. If anyone, worth mentioning, if anyone is looking for like Photoshop work or creative type of work, stuff like that, the placement agency is called Creative Circle. There's also Creative Group. They might be a West Coast thing. They might be an LA thing. I'm not sure. But it's worth looking up. They're like placement agencies. Aquint is also another one that does some of those things. So yeah, there are placement agencies for temp workers that are specifically for like creative jobs, you know. And he says, LOL, yeah, that's very true. So many ways to do the same thing. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, when I was working at Mattel, that was one of the things that, like, when you'd get files from other people, it'd be so frustrating sometimes because you'd get a file from someone that you have to like fix, or you know, not because they did a bad job necessarily, but you know, sometimes there's a change that needs to be done and they're out of the office or they're working on something else and they don't have the time, so you have to go jump on it. And it's like you get these files and you're like, oh my god, the way that you achieve this is so dumb. And I'm sure it's the other way around too. Like they probably get my files and like, oh my god, you moron, why would you do it this way? uh, Being able to erase with the same brush you're painting with is very out in the open with Krita. There's literally a button that looks like an eraser uh, in one of the screens. Press and start erasing. Yeah, no, I know it's a really good feature. Um, and but Photoshop doesn't have that. And so in Photoshop, if you hold down the E, you know, button for eraser, or press it either way, it'll go to your eraser, and your eraser will be whatever brush you used last, you know, for erasing, which can be very helpful or is really annoying. So it just kind of depends. But yeah, um, a lot of the thing is Photoshop isn't an art program, and so it doesn't, you know, it was never designed for that, and so they don't prioritize it. Even when they do things to that like artists want, they often just like half-ass it, just so they can say it's there, uh, to like, you know, stop the complaints kind of thing. Or they develop these tools in a very like in a way that is like very very robust, but ultimately like not very good for artists. Like I'm thinking of like their wet paints. Like they they came out with wet paints and it was just trash for the longest time. Like eventually they became halfway decent, but most of the people I know still don't bother using them. But in the beginning, when they first came out with their wet paints, they had like a, I don't know if they still do this, they might still do, they had like a 3D form of the brush in the corner to show you like what the brush looked like and what angle you were, you know, holding it at and all this stuff. And it's like, okay, that's cool, but it just wasn't very good. But that's what I mean by over engineering it, like having the, you know, 3D render of the bristles and how like how much it goes down. And they also made a pencil that like erodes over time as you're drawing with it. And it just, I don't know, like it's a cool idea, but I literally I don't think I know a single person who uses that on a regular basis. Uh, in Procreate, it's easy to match your brush eraser. Not as nice as Krita, in my opinion, but still very simple. I agree, Thunley. It is. You're right, and you're right. It's not as simple as Krita, but it is still very easy. And the thing about Procreate, I think, is that there's a tendency to, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but I don't feel like you switch brushes as often in Procreate. So it's maybe less of a hassle because it's like more of a one-time thing. Or that could be Cope. I don't know. I just don't think you like switch back and forth as nearly as much. Or I didn't, rather. Krita, there's a lot of things in Krita that looks. I haven't used Krita a lot. Like I played around with it once or twice, but I can't claim to have like really used it. But from everything I've seen, there's a lot of really good features and useful features in it. Uh, that are really great for artists. Um, I like their like shortcut dial thing that they have. I think that's great. That looks so useful. You can like place your preferred brushes in this shortcut dial thing that pops up. Um, I don't know. That seems very helpful. And there's some other things I've seen that for the longest. Once again, for like the longest time, Photoshop didn't have a color wheel color picker, and like for forever, I can't remember when they finally implemented it, but like before they implemented it, you had to buy plugins if you wanted that feature, which is just like so dumb. And I remember not only Krita, but Krita was one of them that had that really nice color picker um, dial with the triangle and everything implemented so much better than Photoshop. Um, yeah, I can't believe it took Adobe like as long as it did to implement that. They literally had a like a someone made a plugin that you had to buy, and they had that for years before they finally implemented it into the program. The dial does seem cool. I messed with it some, but it didn't find it that intuitive to change. I should mess with it more. So what do you use to pick your colors? How do you pick your colors? If you don't use the dial. I mean, I don't exclusively use the dial. Like I do think that that like the hue saturation value. I think those can be more nuanced um, than the dials are, but like for general purpose, I find it very useful to like maneuver around. I don't know. Use your keyboard shortcut or a palette on the side, or mix it myself. Oh, so mm, what kind of keyboard shortcut? I don't about Procreate. I'm using this is Kafir says I'm using two brushes, one for sketch and one for painting, similar to hard round in Photoshop. You don't find brushwork in Procreate enjoyable, to be honest? Huh. Donley says there's a nice color wheel thing I'll show you next time I'm on stream and you're around. Okay, cool. We might be talking about something slightly different. Those, clearly the same. Kafir, that's interesting. I'm torn on Procreate, honestly. So I think Procreate's the best, like one of the best programs to draw in. I enjoy drawing in Procreate. But when I tried, you like that you can sit in your bed and paint though? Yeah, I'm familiar. Yeah. Yeah, the convenience of being able to take it anywhere is great. But I do understand your feeling. Last time I tried to paint and Procreate, I really struggled with it, honestly. Yeah, it did not feel great. Having said that, it had been a couple of years, and I haven't been doing a lot of digital painting, so that may have been it. But yeah, when I said keyboard shortcut, I was thinking color. Oh, you're thinking of the eyedropper. Yeah, yeah, like the color picker eyedropper thing. Yeah, that. Well, yeah, Photoshop has that too. That's of course very useful. Yeah, I don't know. You know what I think? I think one of the things that I ran into that was kind of a problem for me with Procreate recently was, you know, their brushes are very digital. Um, and so I don't know, like with digital brushes and oil brushes don't function the same way, which I know sounds like obvious, but like an airbrush and digital brushes kind of do, right? To give an example of something that does. Um, but like the pressure, the pressure thing just it doesn't equate the same way. So there's that issue, but the other big issue is mixing paint and picking colors. Um, it's so much easier with real paint. With digital, I found it very when I was trying to do it in Procreate, I found it very like disruptive. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, I didn't last time I tried I took my iPad with me when I went to Israel to visit family, and I hated, well, not hated, but I did not enjoy trying to draw or paint on it. It just, I don't know. I struggled with it. I wish I'd taken my oil paints, but like at the same time, I knew I wasn't going to have the time to really use them, and I didn't. So I also this drawing on the drawing in Procreate on the iPad is like I think possibly the best digital drawing experience. Or maybe the closest to like pencil and paper. You have to go. Thank you for the stream. It was me. Oh, thank you so much for stopping by. I appreciate it. I am going to be ending soon, so 2 hours on a weekday is kind of my usually my kind of cutoff point. Roughly. Um, yeah. But thank you so much for stopping by. I am doing this again on Wednesday, same time. So if you're around and feel like stopping by, you are welcome to stop by and chat. Good luck with the cowboy drawings. Yeah. But yeah, I'm probably going to be ending stream soon. So I try to say my goodbyes a bit early because sometimes people, come in at the last second or whatever. So yeah. Like I said, I will be streaming again on Wednesday. If anyone wants to stop by. Also, anyone watching the VOD, you are more than welcome to ask questions or make comments in the comment section on YouTube. Yeah. But yeah, I think I'm pretty much going to call it there for tonight. My back is also complaining at me, so. I wish I had a toggle that I could show. I should do that next time. Oh my god, I should do that next time. Take a screenshot of the painting, and then at the end I can do a before and after kind of thing. I'm gonna see if I can do that. How I can do that. Shouldn't be too hard. Yeah. Anyways, all that to say, have a good night, everyone. I'm gonna call it a night. You use your VOD for that? Yeah. Well, I mean, I can do that on my VOD, but I can't do that live to the viewers. You know what I mean? Um, I mean, they can do it with my VOD, but I don't know. Anyways, all right, I'm gonna call it a night. Have a good one, everyone. See you Wednesday, possibly. Everyone's welcome to join the Discord and check out Don Lee when he streams next, which is sometime soon, I hope. I mean, maybe Tuesday. You mean play it on your own and take a screen cap? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Anyways, all right. Have a good night, everyone.